I need someone who can actually take care of me. Not someone who comes home smelling like effort and has nothing to show for it.
You can't be serious after everything?
I'm done. Sign the papers.
The night Priya signed the divorce papers and told her husband he was nothing, she had no idea she was handing them to the richest man in Phoenix. And what he did next, instead of destroying her, broke her completely. Priya Anand grew up watching other people's lives through a window. Not literally, but close enough. She grew up in a plain two-bedroom apartment in Mesa, Arizona. Her father, Dev Anand, worked the same government clerk job for 22 years. He never complained. He never asked for more. He came home, ate dinner, watched the news, and went to sleep. Priya watched him do that her whole childhood and made one silent promise to herself. That will never be my life. By the time she hit college, she had a plan. She was going to marry money. Not love. Not kindness. Money. She watched her friends' Instagram stories. Luxury resorts, designer bags, rooftop dinners, and she felt something burn in her chest every single time. She wanted that. She deserved that. But life didn't ask her what she wanted. When Priya was 24, her father found her a match. His name was Caleb. Caleb Moore. He drove a 2009 Honda Civic with a cracked bumper. He wore plain Walmart t-shirts. He lived in a small rental house in the older part of Phoenix, the part tourists never saw. His handshake was firm, his eyes were steady, and he smiled like he meant it. Priya looked at him across the dinner table and felt her stomach drop. This is it? This is what I get? She said yes anyway. For her father. For the family. Because what choice did she have? The first few months of marriage were quiet. Caleb was not exciting. He was not flashy. He did not bring home surprises wrapped in Tiffany blue. But he remembered everything. He knew she hated when music played during dinner. He knew she liked her coffee with exactly 1 sugar. He noticed when she was tired before she said a word. On rough days he brought her gas station flowers, the cheap kind in plastic wrap, and somehow that made her feel worse, not better. This is not enough, she thought. This will never be enough. Her college friend Jade called one evening from Cancun. Pool. Cocktails. A husband who had booked the whole resort for their anniversary. Priya stared at her kitchen ceiling and felt the walls closing in. One morning Caleb was sitting at the table eating cereal when she slammed her mug down. My friend Jade's husband just bought her a Range Rover, she said. You can't even take me to a decent restaurant. Caleb looked up slowly. His voice was calm. We have a roof. We have food. We have each other. That's not a life, she snapped. That's just existing. Priya, don't. She held up her hand. Don't give me that patience speech again. 3 years, Caleb. 3 years and nothing has changed. That car outside still sounds like it's dying. I'm embarrassed to tell people what you do. He was quiet for a moment. Then, things will get better. I promise. She laughed. Not warmly. I'm so tired of that promise. She walked out of the room. That same week, she ran into Trent. Trent Holloway. They had gone to the same college. She barely remembered him back then. But now he showed up in a black Mercedes, tailored shirt, watch that caught the light when he moved his wrist. He took her to coffee. He listened. He leaned across the table and said, Priya, a woman like you should not be living like this. You deserve a real life. And I can give it to you. She didn't say anything. But she heard it. All of it. That sentence planted itself in her chest and grew fast. Within 2 weeks, she had made her decision. The night she left, Caleb came home to find the apartment half empty and her suitcase by the door. He stopped walking. Priya, what is this? She turned around. She was holding an envelope. She put it on the table between them without flinching. Divorce papers. I already signed. He stared at the envelope. Didn't move. Divorce. Yes. Her voice was flat. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I need someone who can actually take care of me. Not someone who comes home smelling like effort and has nothing to show for it. Caleb's jaw tightened. For the first time, something moved behind his eyes. Do you really believe money is everything? I believe it's most things. She met his gaze without blinking. I believe it's respect. I believe it's freedom. I believe you can buy almost everything that matters with it, and I'm done pretending otherwise. The room went silent. Caleb picked up the pen slowly. His hand was steady. He signed the papers and set the pen down without a word. Priya grabbed her suitcase and walked out. Trent's car was waiting at the curb. She got in without looking back. What she didn't see was Caleb standing alone in that empty apartment. What she didn't hear was what he said next. He pulled out his phone, dialed, spoke 3 quiet sentences. Nolan, it's done. Call the board. I'm coming back. 6 minutes later, 5 black SUVs pulled up outside the rental house. A man in a suit stepped out and opened the rear door. He lowered his head slightly. Welcome back, Mr. Moore. Ashford Group is ready when you are. Caleb breathed in slowly. Then he walked out. Because here is what Priya did not know. Caleb Moore was not a struggling nobody from Phoenix. He was the sole heir of the Ashford Group, one of the largest privately held real estate and investment firms in the American Southwest. His grandfather had built it. His father had expanded it. And 3 years ago, when Caleb turned 25, the inheritance clause activated. But there was a condition. His grandfather's will required him to live as an ordinary man for exactly 3 years before taking control. No wealth displayed. No staff. No company cars. Just life, raw, unfiltered, stripped of everything. The old man's logic was simple. A leader who has never been hungry cannot be trusted with the hungry. Caleb had followed every rule. He had taken a basic job, rented a normal house, driven a normal car, lived a normal life, and somewhere in the middle of all that, he had fallen in love with Priya. That was the one thing he had not planned for. He had believed she saw something real in him. Not his name, not his money, just him. He was wrong. Phoenix didn't know what hit it when Caleb Moore resurfaced. The business press went into overdrive. Headlines called him a ghost, a myth, a self-made billionaire who had appeared from nowhere. No one knew where he had been. No one knew he had been right there, in a cracked bumper Honda, eating cereal every morning. Meanwhile, Priya's new life looked exactly like she had imagined. Trent took her to rooftop bars, private events, charity dinners. She wore clothes she had only ever seen on screens. She sat at tables next to people who never had to check their bank balances. For a moment, she felt like she had one. But slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, Trent started pulling back. His calls got shorter. His explanations got vague. One Tuesday, he looked across the dinner table and said, "Listen, I need to focus on some deals right now. Let's take some space." She stared at him. "Space," she repeated. He looked away. "It's not the right time." She understood then very clearly what she was to Trent. An accessory, a beautiful distraction, something to be picked up and set down. The whole city was talking about one event, the Ashford Foundation Gala. The mysterious Mr. M, no one knew his first name yet, was throwing the most exclusive party Phoenix had seen in years. Senators, CEOs, film people, real estate titans. The invitation list was sealed, and the guest list had been leaked enough to make everyone desperate to be on it. Trent got an invitation. Of course he did. He told Priya she was coming as his guest. She wore the most expensive dress she owned. She felt ready. They arrived at the hotel, the Grand Ashford, a building Priya had driven past 100 times without really seeing, and the lobby alone stopped her cold. Marble floors, soft gold lighting, people who moved like they owned gravity. Then the security guard stepped in front of them at the VIP entrance. "Mr. Holloway, your guest is not on the primary list. You're through. She'll need to wait in the general area." Trent didn't even look at her. He handed over his card and walked inside. Priya stood there. The guard was polite. The embarrassment was not. She got inside eventually through a side process. She stood near the back of the main hall nursing a sparkling water, watching Trent work the room without her. Then the lights dimmed. A voice over the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the Ashford Group and chairman of the Ashford Foundation, Mr. Caleb Moore." The curtain dropped. The champagne glass in Priya's hand fell. She caught it, barely, because the man walking onto that stage in a dark navy suit Chin up, shoulders back, was Caleb. Her Caleb. The man she had called a failure. The man she had handed papers to like he was a lease agreement she was done with. He stood at the podium and the whole room leaned in. "I want to talk tonight about something we don't talk about enough," he said. "We judge people. Constantly. By their clothes, their address, their car, their job title. And we are almost always wrong." His eyes moved across the room and stopped, just for a second, on her face. "I spent 3 years being judged that way. I learned what it feels like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be told, without words, that you are worth less than the space you take up." The room was completely still. Priya couldn't breathe. Trent materialized beside her. His face was white. "Do you know him?" he whispered. She didn't answer. After the speech, Trent disappeared immediately. She found out later he had slipped out a side exit. He was terrified. He knew exactly how their relationship would look to Caleb Moore, and he wanted no part of what came next. Priya stood there alone, in a room full of the most powerful people in Phoenix, and had never felt smaller in her life. She pushed through the crowd toward Caleb. His security stepped in. She grabbed one of their arms. "I'm his ex-wife." There was a pause. Then Caleb's voice came from behind them, calm and quiet. "Let her through." He stood a few feet away. Up close he looked exactly the same and completely different. Same eyes, same stillness. But something in the way he held the room around him had changed permanently. "Why are you here, Priya?" No anger. No drama. "I wanted to." She stopped. What did she want? To explain? To ask for forgiveness? To go back? She didn't even know anymore. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." "For what, exactly?" "For not seeing you." Caleb tilted his head slightly. "You saw me clearly. That was the problem. You saw someone without status, without money, without a brand name attached. And you made your decision. That was honest. I'd rather have that honesty than a lie. I was wrong." "You were consistent," he said. "You always told me exactly what you valued. I just didn't want to believe it." She blinked hard. "If you had told me who you were, then what? You would have stayed." He looked at her steadily. "Would that have been love, Priya? Or would that have been a different kind of transaction?" She had no answer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "Your parents' mortgage. 12 years of debt. I cleared it this morning. The title transfers to them this week." She stared at the envelope. "That's the last thing I owe as a husband," he said. "Everything after this. We have nothing between us." He walked away. His security closed the space behind him. Priya stood holding the envelope and didn't open it for a long time. She found out later, from her mother, not from Caleb, that he had also set up a small education fund for her younger brother. No announcement. No conditions. No name attached to it. Just done. That was the thing that cracked her open. Not the power. Not the money. Not the gala or the suit or the headlines. The silence with which he gave. 3 weeks passed. Trent stopped calling entirely. She heard through someone else that he had quietly tried to pitch himself to the Ashford Group as a business contact and had been declined without comment. Priya was sitting in her apartment, the expensive one she was now paying for alone, when her phone buzzed with a news alert. Ashford Group announces acquisition of 3 major Phoenix developments. CEO Caleb Moore partners with Ashford Foundation Director Noel Parks on new low-income housing initiative. There was a photo. Caleb and a woman named Noel standing at a press conference. Noel looked calm, focused, sharp. She was looking at the camera like someone who didn't need to perform. Priya stared at the photo for a long time. She wasn't done, though. That was the worst part about what came next. Priya's grief curdled into something uglier. She called Trent. Not because she wanted him back, but because she was scared and angry and needed someone to blame something on. "He humiliated me," she said, "in front of everyone." Trent, calculating as always, heard opportunity in her voice. "Then let's return the favor," he said. "You were his wife. You know things. A few strategic leaks to the right media people and Caleb Moore's perfect image gets complicated very fast." Priya hesitated. Only for a second. What would we say? That he concealed his identity from you during your marriage. That it was deceptive. That this woman Noelle is more than a business partner. Let the press fill in the rest. She agreed. She told herself it was justice. The story broke on a Wednesday. Hidden identity, hidden motives. Who is the real Caleb Moore? Two gossip-adjacent media outlets ran versions of the same story. Unnamed sources. Strategic photos. Insinuations about Noelle. Questions about whether Caleb's social experiment marriage had been exploitative. Ashford Group stock dipped slightly. Comment sections ignited. Priya read it all from her couch and felt nothing that she expected to feel. Not relief. Not power. Just a low, sick feeling she couldn't name. Caleb said nothing publicly for 4 days. On the 5th day, he called a press conference. Priya and Trent both showed up separately. She stood near the back. Trent was closer to the front, and for reasons she would understand soon, he looked deeply uncomfortable. Caleb walked in without any visible preparation. No notes, no team surrounding him. Just him at the podium. "I'm not here to defend myself," he said. "I'm here to show you something." The screen behind him lit up. The video was from a coffee shop. Quiet corner table. 2 people leaning close. Trent's voice came through the speakers first. A few strategic leaks to the right media people, and Caleb Moore's perfect image gets complicated very fast. Then Priya's, "What would we say?" Then Trent again, clearly and without ambiguity, laying out every detail of the plan. The room froze. Trent stood up, started moving toward an exit. 2 officers stepped in. Priya didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs simply stopped working. She heard the charges being read: defamation, criminal conspiracy, coordinated harassment. And she listened to her own voice played back to her on a speaker in a room full of press and cameras, and she understood, in that exact moment, that every decision she had made over the past 2 years had been a step in one continuous direction. And now she had arrived at where that direction led. She was processed, charged, and released pending trial within 48 hours. The charges were serious. Her attorney was not cheap. Trent immediately moved to separate his legal exposure from hers, and whatever warmth he had ever performed toward her dissolved completely. Priya sat in her apartment, the one she could no longer afford, and looked at her phone. She scrolled past the Ashford Foundation press releases, past Caleb's interviews, past the photo of him and Noelle at the housing development groundbreaking. She stopped on a picture she had taken years ago. Before all of it, she and Caleb at a county fair, eating funnel cake on a picnic bench, Caleb laughing at something she couldn't remember. She stared at it for a long time. Then she put the phone down and cried in a way she had not cried in years. Not for what she had lost, but for what she had chosen. In court, when asked if he wished to submit a victim impact statement, Caleb said 3 sentences. "I don't want anything from her. I hope she finds a life she can be honest in. That's all." The judge noted it. The journalists noted it. Priya, sitting at the defendant's table, noted it most of all. The trial took 8 months. Trent settled early and quietly. Priya's case moved slower. She ended up with probation, community service, and a civil judgment she would spend years repaying. She left Phoenix after the verdict. She moved to a small town in eastern Arizona, Safford. Population: 9,000. No one knew her name there. She got a job assisting at an after-school literacy program, making barely enough to rent a studio. She wore the same 3 outfits rotating all week. She ate simply. She walked everywhere. And slowly, without planning it, she started to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Something close to peace. 18 months after she left Phoenix, Priya was sitting on the steps of the school building after the last kids had gone home when her phone buzzed. Her mother, Caleb and Noelle's wedding, was in the paper today. Front page of the business section. They looked so happy. Priya sat with that text for a while. Then she typed back, "I'm glad for him." She meant it. That was the strangest part. She actually meant it. That evening she walked home through the dusty streets of Safford and thought about all the versions of herself she had been. The girl at the apartment window wanting. The wife who kept score. The woman who signed papers without understanding what she was signing away. She thought about Caleb bringing gas station flowers, about him memorizing her coffee order, about how he had cleared her parents' debt without telling her first. She thought about a man who had every reason to destroy her and had chosen, instead, to do exactly nothing. She stopped walking. The sun was going down over the desert and the sky had turned the kind of orange that doesn't look real. She said it quietly to no one. I should have counted what mattered. The wind moved through the brush. No one answered. But for the first time in a very long time, the silence didn't scare her. Some losses teach you nothing. Some losses hollow you out and leave you cleaner than before. The difference is whether you're willing to look at what you chose without flinching and tell the truth.